Hi, this is Tony Bibbs with the GForge Group, and this video is part of our series of GForge tutorials, and today I want to show you how to establish roles for your project. Now, as you might expect, project roles serve as the basis for access control, which allow you to give your team access to only the features that they need. In our last video in this series called Selecting Features, we shared this checklist for you to follow when setting up a new GForge project. In that video, we showed you how to enable the features you want on your project, so now let's build on that by establishing project roles. Starting from your project's homepage, use the GForge menu to access the project administration page. From here, you'll want to go to the Roles tab. Because this is a newly created project, there's already an admin role, but let's go ahead and add some additional roles. Now, as you create roles, keep in mind that you can assign a single user to multiple roles, and the permissions would aggregate the way you would expect. Obviously, you can establish roles to fit your specific needs, but let's start with a realistic example by adding an engineering, quality assurance, and build manager role. So let's go ahead and click on the Add Role button. As you can see, for each role, you're able to specify the level of access that that role has to each of the features you've enabled on your project. Be sure to take a moment to review all of the options here before proceeding. Let's go ahead and add an engineering role. We will leave most of the default settings, but we will give our engineers assignee level permission to tickets, write access to the repository, post access to the chat room, edit access to the wiki, admin access to the documents, and we will leave the read access for the builds. Let's finish up by saving this, and then we can move on to the quality assurance role. So for the quality assurance role, let's give them assignee access to tickets, leave read access to the repository, give them post access to the chat room, edit access to the wiki, admin access to the documents, and we'll leave read access for the builds. With all those set, let's go ahead and hit save and then finish up by creating the build manager role. For the build manager role, we'll start with the same access we gave the engineering role by giving them assignee access to tickets, write access to the repository, post access to the chat room, edit access to the wiki, admin to the documents, and then we'll finish up by giving them admin to the builds. Now with those access levels set, let's go ahead and save this role. And now that our roles are established, all we have to do is begin inviting users to this project. To do that, let's head to the project homepage, and then we'll click on the Team button. As you can see, right now, I'm the only person on the project. So to add users to your project, let's go over to the Invite tab. From here, we can actually invite multiple users at once by entering a comma-separated list of email addresses. But for now, we'll add a user to each of the new roles that we created. So let's first go ahead and add our engineer. Now we'll add our quality assurance user. And let's finish up by adding our build manager. It's worth noting that when adding users, GForge will determine if they already have an account, and if not, they'll receive an email with a link that guides them through establishing one and then adding them to the project. Until they do that, their invite will show up here under the Active Invites section. But in this case, however, all three users have accounts, so they were added to the project immediately. Now that you've established roles and added users to your project, you are ready to move on to the next video in this series where we'll talk about customizing the ticketing system.